It's finally the day. Microsoft finally announced the next generation of Surface in the Surface Laptop 5, Surface Pro 9, and the Surface Studio 2. We'll talk about the hardware, but I just want to set a moment to appreciate the fact that Microsoft did have some callbacks to the fact that it was the 10-year anniversary of the Microsoft Surface, just like we've been celebrating it over the last 9 videos. You should check out the playlist here if you haven't seen it already. But now we're talking all about the next generation. Let's start with the hardware, and then we can get to the software later. The Surface Laptop 5 is where Microsoft started, and it kind of makes sense. The Surface Laptop 5 doesn't look too different from prior generations. It looks pretty similar to the Surface Laptop 4, except for some color changes. Now, some people would see this as negative, and for the most part, I understand. I notably have criticized Apple and other manufacturers for not iterating much over prior generations, and it's kind of sad to not see any sort of changes to the Surface Laptop 5 versus what we've seen for several years now. Now, I'm okay with the design. I actually really love the design of the Surface Laptop 4. The only big change that I'd want to see in the Laptop 5 and now the Laptop 6 is a shrinking of the bezels, because they're pretty large for 2022. We've got the same design, same size screen, same port selection. The only big changes are in the camera, which we'll get to, and then some software changes, and of course the upgrade to the 12th generation of Intel chips. Unlike prior generations, there's no AMD option this time around, which I can understand some people would be frustrated about, especially if you are the type that wants to do productivity rather than necessarily just do gaming or like simple tasks on your computer. The extra cores of a lot of AMD chips enable you to do a lot more complex sort of calculations, and so if you happen to have that sort of workflow, you'll benefit from it. Now, I'm not too miffed about it, to be honest, because frankly, I think the Intel 12th generation chips are capable enough to get through most things. And notably, I think Microsoft recognizes that the Surface Laptop 5 is more of a one-size-fits-all product that doesn't really sell a lot in volume, but is not supposed to solve any individual person's problems. That's why Microsoft has never made a Surface gaming laptop, although I would love to see that someday. We'll review it, but it's likely that the Surface Laptop 5 continues to be the right solution for a lot of people who are willing to pay a little bit more for the Surface Premium and get a perfect, excellent laptop experience. Now, granted, there are a lot of competitors in the market that continue to iterate and change their design to something more modern. Just look at Dell's XPS line. So if you want the most cutting edge, then it probably is not the Surface Laptop 5. Next, let's move to the Surface Studio, which frankly I'm the most unfamiliar with out of all Surface devices. While I've used a Surface Studio in person, I've never owned a Surface Studio, and I've never really had a lot of use case for its particular niche. It's an interesting device, and it is an incredibly beautiful device, but it doesn't seem like it really is a solution for most people the same way that the Surface Pro 9 and the Surface Laptop 5 are. The upgrades on the Surface Studio 2 Plus are kind of predictable because they are massive upgrades over the original Surface Studio 2 that released in 2018. But that being said, they're not the most cutting edge, the most modern of specs, and they're not the most high powered if you're wanting to use this for some sort of graphically intensive work. The RTX 3060 is going to be fine. It's a mobile chip, notably, but it's not going to be good enough for any sort of high-end video editing, for example. I've never met the niche of people who swear by the Surface Studio, the graphic artists or whatever it might be that use it. It always seems like a great solution for someone, but I don't know who that someone is, and I'd venture to guess that those people would want some additional graphics horsepower over a 3060 mobile. One of the most common criticisms I see about the Surface Studio is that you can't actually hook it up to another computer and use it as an external touchscreen monitor, which would be pretty incredible. If there's truly enough people who want me to check out the Surface Studio 2 Plus, then I'll see if I can find a way to fit it into my budget, but it's going to be a stretch. Finally, let's talk about the device that I'm most excited in the Surface Pro 9. Now, we didn't see the design change, but that's not a surprise considering we just got one with the Surface Pro 8. But it's largely a iterative step over the Surface Pro 8, which is unsurprising. We also have moved on to 12th generation Intel chips, which is a good sign, considering my Core i5 of last generation was a little bit underpowered for a lot of different things, and in many people's eyes, not powerful enough for video editing. Maybe the next Core i5 will be. But what's more interesting to me is the fact that now we have an SQ3, an ARM version of the Surface Pro 9. Instead of having the separate Surface Pro X and Surface Pro 8 that we did beforehand, the lines are now merged into the Surface Pro 9, which has an SQ3 and 5G, and the Surface Pro 9 that has Intel chips. To me, this is what Microsoft should have done from the beginning, but it kind of makes sense that when Windows 10 on ARM was a separate unit, that the Surface Pro X was also kind of a separate line. Now that Windows 11 is Windows 11, it makes sense for them to merge the line. Now, I don't know if emulation of 64-bit apps has quite gotten to the point where the experience with the Surface Pro 9 SQ3 model will be anywhere near in parity to the Core i5 model. I'll have to test that for myself, but I am very, very excited because Microsoft notably claimed that the Surface Pro 9 SQ3 model has up to 18 hours of battery life. The battery life was one of the biggest problems that I had with my Surface Pro 8. A lot of that was the hibernation and the kind of standby drain that I experienced with it, but even in normal use, I wouldn't get a full workday out of it. The Surface Pro 9 with an SQ3 hopefully will be able to make it through the day in normal web browsing, office work, and even maybe a little bit of photo editing. I don't think it's likely that we'll be able to do video editing on it, at least on something like Premiere Pro, because Premiere notably blocks out the Surface Pros with ARM-based chips. But we'll see if that continues. It seems like Microsoft is actually buying into this whole Windows on ARM thing, which is honestly a bit of a surprise. Now, maybe it doesn't cost them too much, especially because Qualcomm is really gearing and pushing for this partnership. But that being said, I still am not sure of it myself. Yes, some other partners have started to buy in, so some other OEMs have started to buy in and build their own ARM-based Windows machines, but they're more niche, sort of one-time products that probably have some co-marketing from Microsoft, and they're not necessarily like the core line of their devices. So for example, I haven't seen any sort of XPS from Dell that has a dedicated ARM-based chip. Once Dell actually makes it a core part of their strategy, maybe I'll be convinced that it's actually a thing, and it is actually competitive with something like Apple Silicon. To be honest, I'm not sure in the end if it really matters whether the Surface Pro is running an ARM-based chip or an Intel chip. All I want is a good experience with decent battery life, and whichever can provide me that, I will actively choose. There's notably been laptops in the past that have been x86 based Intel chips that have run very, very well. So like the HP Spectre from last year notably had great battery life. There's some reason why that happened, and if Intel is the solution for that, then I'm perfectly fine with it. While I'm trying to decide, I'm thinking that I'm going to get both an SQ3 model and probably a higher end, maybe i7 model of the Surface Pro 9. Let me know down in the comments if I should get those, or maybe an Intel i5 version so I can compare those two more. I'm curious, because notably I've never gotten a top-end Surface Pro, or at least more recently, and I'd like to see what the performance is relative to more high-end laptops. But let me know what models you think I should get, and let me know what models you're particularly interested in. Next, let's talk about the software side of the event, or at least closer to the software side of the event, which Microsoft obviously focused more on. One of the things that I was the most excited about was the voice isolation, kind of machine learning sort of technique that they're using to basically isolate your voice from surrounding noises on video calls. Yes, technically this isn't the first time that we've seen it, and I saw a lot of different tech websites say that, oh, Microsoft's just following the pack. But as far as I know, this is the first instance that we've seen it built into a laptop operating system. I started using it with my NVIDIA graphics card a couple of years ago, and it was a pretty cool thing, but it happened to also steal the default microphone, and then the configuration was always just a bear, and then most notably, it required an NVIDIA graphics card, which has massive power, space, and pricing implications. Alternatively, we've seen different like home camera systems like the Nest be able to do the same thing. But yeah, that's not a solution for all the video calls that everyone is on. Then finally, we've seen the solution from apps like Discord. and I think Zoom might even have a demo. But the problem with that is that sort of computing is requiring the use of your CPU and adding additional cycles to your CPU. Notably, video chatting is already very, very heavy on your CPU. And so adding some additional layers is going to keep your fan running while you're on video calls, which gets pretty frustrating. Being able to basically take that processing and offload it to a separate chip dedicated for the neural processing of it is perfect. It's incredible. And hopefully, if Microsoft is right, it will take a lot less power to be able to do so and leave your CPU to be able to calculate a lot more things. So I'm excited. I'm less excited about the webcam changes that Microsoft has decided to implement. No longer going for a single kind of narrow angle direct webcam, but instead having a wide angle webcam that then crops in and zooms in on your person as you're on a video call. Notably, we've seen this from a lot of different sort of manufacturers, most notably Apple with the iPad having what they call center stage. I never liked center stage on my iPad Pro because notably it still has a pretty low resolution webcam that you punch in and crop out, so then the resulting picture is even worse. And if I happen to be working on my laptop, or in this case my Surface Pro, then I'm probably sitting right in front of it. And so I don't need my webcam to track me if I'm off to the side. Instead, I just need the webcam to be a relatively narrow angle and high resolution. The alternative is if the Surface is connected to a docking station, then probably it's off to the side and the monitor has a camera above it. That's the case in my home office, that's the case in my work office, it's just about the case everywhere. The only time it really matters for me to have a good webcam on the Surface itself is when I'm sitting directly in front of the Surface. Maybe the quality ends up being very good and this is all just a rant for no reason, but we'll have to test that out. Finally, Microsoft is using that neural chip to also basically set your eye line from below looking down at the screen to looking up into the camera, which is something that they've shown over the years. I've never frankly gotten the opportunity to use it myself, but I'm really excited to give it a shot because I think it will add a little bit more personality to with video calls. Other than that, Microsoft had a number of accessories announcements, but let me know down in the comments if you have any interest in me walking through any of those. All in all, I was pleased with the events and I was really jazzed up for the event, but it really wasn't that outstanding. I wish Microsoft did a little bit more for their 10-year anniversary, like releasing like a small run of like a golden Surface, or like maybe a Surface Go 3 that was styled to look like a Surface RT. Or I don't know. I would have done so many things, but probably wouldn't have been the best business ideas. I just wish they had some better solution for the diehard Surface fans that happen to have watched the last 9 videos of mine. That's okay because it still was an incredible experience. These last 10 videos, now 10 with this one, have been such an incredible feeling. I'm amazed with the amount of support and comments and input that I've gotten from my community and how much that community has grown in just those last 10 days. I love how many people are very, very passionate about Surface devices, and I'm so glad those people managed to find their way into my comments section. Thank you so much for following me along in this journey. I am so excited to finally test out these Surface products, and I'm so excited to continue to talk to all of y'all and hear y'all's experiences. Thank you for watching InnoIso. I hope you like this whole endeavor, this whole journey. If you haven't checked out any of the videos, I strongly recommend that you check them out. If you like the video, please let me know and get subscribed if you want to see more content, including the eventual review of the Surface Pro 9. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. See ya.